In a night that escalated from mere political grandstanding to outright threats, former President Donald Trump took the stage in Arizona, lashing out with a wave of deeply disturbing comments that shocked and alarmed many Americans. What was supposed to be a rally aimed at unifying his supporters and addressing issues of national interest turned into a scene of unfiltered hostility as Trump leveled inflammatory threats against his political opponents, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. But he didn't stop there. Throughout the evening, Trump spiraled from making veiled threats to unfounded accusations and even insulting the intelligence and appearance of prominent figures on the opposite side of the aisle. The event left many questioning his mental state and fitness to lead and sparked outrage across the nation, with commentators and politicians alike condemning his remarks. Set against a backdrop of an energized but tense audience, Trump's comments were unprecedented in their intensity and marked a new low in American political discourse. His speech, peppered with bizarre asides and derisive personal attacks, grew increasingly erratic as he addressed a range of issues. At one point, Trump aimed his rhetoric at Liz Cheney, the outspoken critic and former representative from Wyoming, calling her a radical war hawk before chillingly suggesting a scenario where she would be put with a rifle, standing there with 9 barrels pointed at her. His words seemed to evoke violent imagery and went beyond mere political criticism, verging on incitement, a fact not lost on those in attendance or the millions watching from home. The speech continued to spiral as Trump launched into lengthy rants against a slew of other political figures, including Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, and Hillary Clinton, each insult seeming more vitriolic and unsettling than the last. From name-calling to insinuating that murderers and drug dealers were in the audience, Trump's rhetoric reflected not just frustration but what some critics have described as a dangerously unhinged mindset. Yet, amid the chaos, one thing became increasingly clear. Trump was intent on not just fanning the flames of division but, perhaps more alarmingly, testing the boundaries of legal and ethical conduct in the political arena. This video dives deep into the details of Trump's Arizona appearance, analyzing each statement and incident in a broader context of today's volatile political climate. We'll look at the implications of his words, how they align or conflict with his legal challenges, and the impact such rhetoric has on a nation already grappling with political polarization and the consequences of violent extremism. Trump's Arizona outburst, a dark turn in political rhetoric. As Trump addressed the Arizona crowd, his comments quickly moved from standard stump speech material to uncharted, threatening territory. When discussing Liz Cheney, who has long been one of his most vocal Republican critics, he seemed to cross a line that left even some supporters visibly uncomfortable. Cheney, known for her firm stance on holding Trump accountable for his actions surrounding the January 6th Capitol riot, has been one of Trump's favorite targets. However, his Arizona remarks took that disdain to a menacing new level. "Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels aimed at her. Let's see what happens when the guns are trained on her face," Trump said to a shocked audience. The remark was not only inflammatory but also perilously close to a direct threat against a former elected official. The disturbing statement drew immediate condemnation from political figures across the spectrum, with many pointing out that Trump's choice of words could have serious legal repercussions. As someone facing multiple felony charges, Trump's decision to invoke such violent imagery could be seen as a violation of the terms of his release, sparking renewed questions about whether he is fit to campaign for the presidency. A public spiraling, eerie noises, and disjointed rants. Beyond the disturbing comments directed at Cheney, Trump's behavior throughout the night added an unsettling layer to his Arizona appearance. As he spoke, there were several moments where he made peculiar noises, sounds that seemed to punctuate his sentences, but lacked any clear context. Observers noted that Trump seemed to struggle with maintaining focus, often drifting into incoherent tangents. In one such instance, he began addressing the audience directly, shifting between mumbled words and odd sounds. His monologue was not only difficult to follow but also troublingly erratic, leading some to speculate about his mental health and well-being. His peculiar behavior continued as he addressed the crowd, at one point even commenting on the possibility that murderers and drug dealers could be in the audience. Such statements serve not only to confuse his listeners, but also to highlight the disconcerting contrast between his self-perception and his actual behavior on stage. Millions and millions of people, I'm sure we have some in here tonight with us, murderers and drug dealers, prisoners, he said. Such comments, while perhaps intended as hyperbole, appeared to underscore a deeper disregard for the truth and a willingness to alienate even his own supporters by implying that criminal elements could be present in the audience. For many Americans watching the speech, this kind of rhetoric seemed more suited to an authoritarian rally than a Democratic campaign. Name-calling and personal attacks, targeting Adam Schiff and Kamala Harris. The evening continued with Trump launching personal attacks on figures like Representative Adam Schiff and Vice President Kamala Harris. His rhetoric became increasingly unhinged as he used derogatory terms, referring to Schiff as watermelon head and belittling his appearance with insults that seemed to appeal to a schoolyard bully mentality more than to a former president. Such derogatory language served no policy purpose and instead seemed intended to incite laughter and scorn from his audience, casting political discourse in an ugly and divisive light. He's a sleazebag, probably going to be a senator if you can believe it, Trump said, attempting to undermine Schiff's integrity and suitability for office. In another section of his speech, Trump targeted Kamala Harris, calling her a low IQ individual and a crack or under pressure. Such statements not only reflect deep-seated animosity, but also amplify concerns about the degree to which Trump's rhetoric intentionally dehumanizes his opponents. These personal attacks aren't merely political. They're part of a dangerous trend of vilifying those who disagree with him, often inciting hatred and division among his followers. Paranoid theories and election conspiracies, rehashing false claims. True to form, Trump didn't let the evening pass without returning to his unproven claims of election fraud. Despite the overwhelming evidence debunking his accusations, he continued to allege that votes are being stolen from him, particularly in Pennsylvania. Such statements not only perpetuate falsehoods but also fuel anger and mistrust among his supporters, some of whom have shown a willingness to act on these beliefs. At one point, Trump referenced finding bad votes in York County, Pennsylvania, claiming that multiple ballots had been written with the same pen and signature. While these assertions have been widely dismissed by election officials and experts, his repetition of these claims serves to keep his base engaged and agitated, potentially laying the groundwork for future unrest. Donald Trump's Arizona rally revealed a deeply troubling side of his campaign strategy, a strategy marked not by policy promises or unifying messages, but by inflammatory rhetoric, personal attacks, and veiled threats against political opponents. His remarks about Liz Cheney alone crossed a line that has left political analysts and average Americans alike questioning the direction in which he's steering his campaign and his supporters. As Trump continues to push the boundaries of acceptable political discourse, he risks not only alienating moderate voters, but also inciting dangerous levels of hostility among his more extreme followers. His words have consequences, and as the nation watches his behavior with increasing alarm, the question looms: how far will he go, and what will be the cost? In the weeks and months to come, Americans will have to reckon with the impact of Trump's rhetoric and decide whether this is the kind of leadership they want for the future. One thing is certain: with each unhinged remark and disturbing insinuation, Trump is testing the limits of the nation's tolerance, leaving a lasting impact on American politics that may be difficult to reverse.